She, I guess, starts to suspect that things perhaps aren't going the way that she thought they would or the way that she had planned. So in a move that's half genius, half bonkers, decides the best way to deflect guilt is to literally take a bullet. Yep.
Oh no, she shot herself.
She shoots herself.
Where does she shoot herself? What?
And if that's not commitment to a lie, I don't know what is. Welcome to the Compendium, an assembly of fascinating and intriguing things. We are a weekly variety podcast where each week Kyle Risi normally tells me, Adam Cox, everything he thinks I need to know about a topic that I will find both fascinating and intriguing. We dive into stories pulled from the darker corners of true crime, historical events, and the who's who of extraordinary people. We give you just enough information to stand your ground at any social gathering. But today I'm in the driving seat. I am your host, Adam Cox.
And I'm your co-host, Kyle Risi.
And in today's episode of The Compendium, we're unwrapping a story that is as complex as it is chilling. We dive into one hell of a labyrinth of a tale of when online dating goes horribly wrong, and just the lengths some people might go to in order to hold on to romance.
Really? Is this like the Tinder killer?
Not a Tinder killer. That's obviously when Tinder was around. This predates Tinder.
Poff. Plenty of fish.
Yes, you guessed it. Plenty of fish.
Is it Plenty of Fish? Damn.
Yeah.
This is setting an age on it, isn't it? It's giving it a date.
Yeah, well, look, Plenty of Fish was one of the earliest dating sites, I think it
And
was.
Match.com as well was one of them. Friends Reunited. It says Friends Reunited, but everyone knows what it really
It's for
means.
hookups.
Yeah, for sure. So this must be like well over 15 years ago, I guess?
Yeah, it's around about, well, it starts the story around the 2000s.
Okay, wow. So quite a long time ago.
The noughties. Yeah, but today's story, it focuses on a guy called David Kroupa and three women he had relationships with. Amy Flora, the mother of his children, and then two women he would go on to date, Cari Farver and Liz Golyar. What starts out as maybe a little jealousy quickly spirals into a chilling saga of deception, stalking, and a mystery that baffled America.
Ooh, a stalking story.
It's not a crime novel, but this is a real-life version of Fatal Attraction, or that's my opinion of it anyway, which even caught the attention of Netflix.
Okay, so I just want to add something there. Because you hear that term all the time, don't you? Fatal Attraction.
Yeah.
And that's a film, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have no idea what that's about.
Really? The movie with the bunny boiler?
Oh, that one! No, I haven't never seen it, but I do know the scene very well. That's Fatal Attraction.
Yeah.
So that's where the term bunny boiler comes from, right?
Yeah, exactly that.
So who's the chick in it? Who's the main girl? Is that Zucchini Weaver?
Zucchini Weaver, as in like zucchini?
Zucchini Weaver, yeah.
Zucchini Weaver. It is a lady called Glenn Close.
Oh, of course, Glenn Close in the younger days. I can now imagine the scene because obviously it's been depicted so many times over the course of my life. I remember her perm.
Yes.
And I remember the big pot. And I remember the very 90s or 80s kind of style kitchen that she was in when the bunny is revealed.
Yeah, well, she's the one that plants the bunny. It's because his wife is someone else, I think Anne Archer. But yeah, Michael Douglas is the main guy, and he's the one that thinks he can get away with it.
Michael Douglas is in it as well.
Yeah, you should watch it. It's a really good movie.
I think I will. So this is going to be a story that kind of is a bit obsessive.
You've got it in one.
Oh my God, I'm so excited for this. I'm so ready.
We're going to unravel how one of these women wreaked havoc on the lives of those entangled in Dave's love and family life. From vanishing acts to messages from beyond, this story shows the dark side of digital love and obsession.
Okay, I'm so ready for this.
Great. Well, you know how things go. Before we get into the story,
It's the drill.
it's time for
all the latest things. So this is a little segment of our show where we catch up on all the week's happenings, share a quick tidbit, strange fact, or laugh at a bit of weird news from the past week. And because Adam is hosting this week, I think it's his turn to go first.
Sure. So my thing this week is about Kim Jong-un and a little thing that has apparently been nicknamed the Pleasure Squad.
Oh God, I know. I guarantee I know what this is about. He's an evil dictator. Of course, he's got a whole harem of women just kind of like on his beck and call, if you will.
Well, apparently, this predates him. This is like a long tradition.
Oh, really?
That goes back to Kim Jong II.
Okay.
So what happens every year is Kim Jong-un selects 25 virgin girls to join his creepy pleasure squad. And they're picked based on their looks and political loyalty.
It's North Korea. There's only one party. Oh, who are you going to vote for? Oh, you're voting for the opposition? Bang.
And this was all revealed from a woman called Yeonmi Park. And I think she...
Oh, yes.
She is one of the people that managed to defect or escape. I'm not quite sure how it was. And she was one of these women, as far as I'm aware, or at least was closely tied to it. And so they would visit classrooms and schools where they would go and search for anyone that looked pretty. And then they'd do a load of checks. One of them would be a medical examination to confirm that they were a virgin, which is horrendous. And then they would go through other things to make sure, I don't know, they didn't have any imperfections, they didn't have scars, their face was symmetrical, whatever it was. And so they'd have to go through all these things, and those that didn't meet this criteria would be disqualified. And if you're lucky of one of the handful of girls that were picked, you would be in his, pleasure squad.
And what does that involve exactly?
I think we all know what it involves. Some of the other things they had to do is they had to be trained in massage, perform songs, and dance for his entertainment.
And do they get to live in his... like in his palace or in his big old grand palatial mansion, or what's the deal? Do you know?
Well, there's a lot of women to, I guess, host. And so whether they would all spend or rotate time, I'm not sure the intricate details. So as I said, this all started with Kim Jong II and has been followed up with all his successors. And each person that comes in, this dictator, has apparently a different type. So some would go for a slightly older woman, some would go for some more slender. And there was rumours that his wife was originally in the pleasure squad.
Really?
This is Kim Jong-un.
Wow, like North Korea is just mental, isn't it? The story of Yeonmi Park, is that her name? Have I said that correct? Yeonmi?
Yes, that's it, yeah.
Is just harrowing. Like her story about how she escaped or defected, I think is the traditional term they use, is just harrowing because she had to, I believe, escape across the Gobi Desert, and it was absolutely freezing cold, and they had a little baby with them as well, and they weren't allowed to stop even for like 5 minutes because they would have froze to death. They had to keep moving, and they had to keep moving this baby's joints and their arms and stuff to stop it from dying. What? It's crazy. And then at the end of the desert, the guys that were like helping them escape were then like, yeah, we're not helping you escape. We're actually selling you now into slavery.
Yeah, I remember. Do you know what? This would be a very good podcast episode.
Yeah, it would be hard to listen to when you listen to some of the things that she went through. I believe she said that she was down by the river one day just looking for food, and the only things that were available to eat were like snakes. So she'd be finding snakes and stuff and scavenging and whatnot. And she saw a little boy down by the lake, and he was so malnutritioned that the lining of his stomach was so weak that his intestines were just poking through it because, of course, that's how malnutritioned he was. And there were flies around it, and it was like his intestines were coming out. And when they were asked, like, how did you feel about it? And she was like, I felt nothing because it was just normal.
Wow, that's normal.
That was just normal. It just didn't faze her at all because that's how much hardship they were living through.
That's like the complete opposite of our normal, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Crazy story. We should absolutely do a podcast on that.
That's another survival story for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
That's my latest thing for this week, which I didn't realise existed, but that's out there in the world.
So all the latest things for this week is... So I actually still have some of my Google alerts set up after we did the Rudy Kirawani episode. And if you haven't listened to that episode, then it's about a guy who was running a whole fake wine operation from his front room. He was selling these bottles of wines for like thousands and thousands of dollars. Do you remember it?
Yeah.
And his mum was helping him as well, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And it's really funny because what's really memorable about that particular episode is that it really highlights how fake all these wine professionals in the industry are. And like for not being able to even tell the difference between a $500 bottle of wine and a $5 bottle of wine. And it just highlights how much fraud and backhandedness and kickbacks and kind of bribery is in the industry. So a popular sommelier from Belgium, he is called Eric Bosman. And like for years, he's suspected that a lot of these wine competitions are all just full of shit. And so he decided that he was going to go ahead and find the absolute worst tasting bottle of wine from a supermarket. Like it was like €2.50. That's how cheap it was. Basically, it was cooking wine. And what he then did is he worked with a TV program and they then registered the wine for a prestigious international competition. I think it's pronounced Gilbert et Gilliard. So like sometimes you'll see bottles of wine and they've got like that little sticker on it and it will say like 2-time gold medal or whatever. And there's like gold, silver, bronze, etc. And you can put stickers on there. So what he did is he took this supermarket wine, he replaced the label, he gave it a new name. Obviously, he's not an idiot, so he's going to obviously change the label. And then he also created this whole backstory for the wine, claiming that it was this extremely rich and high quality grape from the Bologna Hills in Italy. And then he submitted a bunch of fake lab data about the wine. Okay, so that's the objective stuff about it. And then he also started to create a lot of buzz around the wine on social media and with some other plants that were there at the competition and that had their ins with the judges and stuff.
Did he pull it off?
And then so to prove that it's all just marketing and the power of suggestion, like if there is a bunch of people just praising this wine, then how does that then influence the professionals who are supposed to be judging the wine? And so by the end of the competition, he had won gold for this €2.50 bottle of wine that he just picked up at the supermarket, proving that it's all just buzz and suggestion and that these professionals don't really know what they're talking about.
That's crazy. So a $2.50 or €2.50 wine, and it's got this kind of recognition.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Should they not do a blind taste test? That feels like what should happen and not have a backstory or a sob story for wine.
It's not X Factor.
That feels
it's
like
not Pop Idol. Pop Idol or American Idol.
You want to sell this wine? It needs a sob story.
Yeah. So that's essentially what's happened. And you're right. Like it should be completely blind. But what they do is they submit it with a label so they can judge it on that. They hear about the buzz and the hype about the wine. They see the marketing and all this crap. And all this time, it's €2.50. So how many other bottles of wine that win these competitions are just pish? Essentially.
Well, we'll never know.
So that's all the latest things for this week. Hey freaks, Kyle here. If you aren't following us on Instagram, A, why the hell not? And B, you probably don't know that we're now releasing our next episode a whole week early on Patreon. And it's completely free to listen to. No strings. All you need to do is sign up for a free account and enjoy more from your favorite duo. This is perfect for all those die-hard freaks of the show who can't wait for their weekly fix. So to get next week's early access episode, just follow the Compendium podcast on Instagram and click the link in our bio to join our Patreon. It really is that simple. If after you sign up for free and you want even more, you can subscribe for up to 4 early release episodes for a small fee. Patreon is brand new to us, and we need your help to know exactly what you want to see more of. So come hang out with us and see what we're working on next and become a certified freak. Now, let's get back to the show.
Okay, so our story today starts with David Kroupa in the 90s. David had dated a girl named Amy Flora for a number of years. They got together at a fairly young age and had 2 kids together. But as time went on, things started to impact their relationship. They had different work patterns, which meant they barely got to see each other. And as a result, they drifted apart and they decided that the best thing for them was to split. And that was in the year 2000. Amy decided she wanted to move to Omaha in Nebraska. And for David, he had never been there, but wanted to continue to be a good dad and an active dad in his kid's life. So he agreed that he would move there and continue to be a good role model. David would have to rebuild his life in an unfamiliar place, but despite that uncertainty, he was open to a new chapter of his life and a challenge. He got his own place and landed a job as a mechanic. Whilst he would spend time with his kids as much as he could at the weekends, he also enjoyed being single again. And at the age of 35, it meant he had this renewed freedom and he was a bachelor. And he wanted to enjoy being single for a while and not settle down with anyone. He had done the whole commitment thing. He was ready to have some fun.
And yeah, because the whole commitment thing didn't really work out for him the first time. So I get it.
Yeah, and I guess if he's been in a long-term relationship for a long period of time, he perhaps never did the dating thing as much in his early 20s.
Sure, true.
So David, like a lot of singletons back then in the early noughties, he joined Plenty of Fish, which we just spoke about. POF. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, because there was plenty of fish. P-O, and people used to go, P-O-F, so people would go POF.
Oh, I'm on POF.
I'm on POF. I only know that because we have a friend and she met one of her first partners on POF. I remember when she was like doing the circuit on POF.
The circuit on POF.
Yeah, that was like a good 15 years ago, wasn't it?
No way. No one talks about Plenty of Fish. Is that still going? It probably is.
No, I think it's all been replaced by the algorithm.
The algorithm apps.
Tinder?
So yeah, if you wanted to find someone and you didn't want to do that just in a bar or out in public, then you'd go online to Plenty of Fish. This website was pretty much one of the first ones, as we said, back at the time. He set up a dating profile and patiently sat waiting for those women to line up wanting to date him. But of course, that's not quite how it goes. He has to wait a little bit. But it only takes a couple of days before he gets his first message.
Why does it only take a couple of days? Do they only release a certain number of messages?
Just didn't get any interest in the first couple of days.
Oh, okay.
So it just took a little time for someone to message back or respond to his new profile.
Okay, sorry. I'm so suspicious that I just assumed like someone was fiddling with something in the back end at POF.
Well, currently you don't have to be suspicious.
Okay.
I'll tell you when you need to be suspicious.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
So the first woman to really speak to him online was a lady called Liz Golyar. They initially chatted back and forth online, and to David, Liz seemed pretty cool. She was down to earth, into stuff that he likes, like sci-fi, heavy metal. She even had her own motorcycle. She liked animals. She had 2 dogs, a cat, as well as a big snake. And she was a single parent, so quite a bit in common. They were both lonely, and so it seemed like a good match. They hit it off, and they agreed to go on a date.
What's her name?
Liz Golyar.
Well, I'm really intrigued to find out who the perpetrator is here. Or is it her?
You'll
Oh,
find
no,
out.
it's him, isn't it? No, it's not him. I don't know. Carry on.
Yeah, the point is you shouldn't know right at this point.
I shouldn't.
No.
Okay, good.
So Dave's pretty nervous leading up to the date. It's his first date in a while, and Liz is really smiley, lots of energy, just giving off a really good vibe to Dave. And Dave was pretty upfront, though. He said he wasn't looking for anything too serious, just dates, maybe some fun. And that worked for Liz, because that's exactly what she was looking for at that time.
I mean, that's what women always say, but really they're like picking that China patterns.
Maybe.
They've got to play it cool. They can't scare the man off.
China patterns. Dave now had someone to chat to and hang out with and go on some casual dates, but still have plenty of personal space to be a good dad and everything else that he wanted to do. Things were going well and just what he needed at that time in his life. And they dated for a while and all was good. About 6 months later, along comes Cari Farver, the soon-to-be other woman in David's life. She was a customer at the garage he worked at as a mechanic, and they smiled and flirted one day. And that was that, thought Dave. Just an attractive young woman that came into his work, some harmless flirting, and he wouldn't see her again. But it only took a couple of weeks before she would then pop up on Plenty of Fish. Dave instantly recognised her and thought he had nothing to lose. He reaches out and says, "Hey, I know you." And she messages back to say, "Yeah, I know you too." And things went from there. They chatted some more and they agreed to go on a date. David and Cari shared stories about their childhoods, where they grew up. Both had children from previous relationships. Cari had a son, but had gone back to college to study, and she was into computers, which set her apart from a lot of other women that David had spoken to, because it's pretty uncommon to come across someone tech-savvy, and that was also very attractive.
Just like a gamer girl.
Yeah, a little bit like that. To David, he thought she was way out of his league, but there was no better time to ask her to go back to his place as their date was coming to an end. And she luckily said yes.
Oh, she wants some coffee.
Go Dave.
Yeah, go Dave.
Get some coffee.
Yeah, what if he only just wants coffee?
Well, that's fine.
Yeah, but she's expecting like...
Latte.
Exactly.
Well, good thing that she says to him that, hey, I'm not looking for anything serious. I'm not looking for a monogamous relationship.
This is just coffee.
This is just coffee. Just latte.
Just latte. What is latte? As a sex move, what is latte? I mean, black coffee would be obviously one in the stink. But what would a latte be?
I don't know. It feels very vanilla, very milky. Maybe some foreplay.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, bit of latte.
Well, I wouldn't say like vanilla is foreplay.
Well, I don't know. I feel like it's
I would just say vanilla is just missionary sex and that's it. No foreplay.
Well, I don't know. Latte is foreplay.
Okay.
Cappuccino, you're stepping it up a gear.
To what?
Missionary.
What? Stepping up as missionary? What?
There's a whole host of coffees, Kyle. Just getting started.
What?
Anyway.
Why are we talking about this? Back to the story, right? They're having coffee.
Anyway, so they arrive at Dave's place and they're barely in the door when his buzzer goes. And weirdly, it's Liz. She'd been trying to get hold of Dave actually for a while to collect some stuff from his apartment. So it was super awkward for David and the timing couldn't be any worse.
That's the end of them.
Yeah, well, for Dave, he was upfront with Liz about his intentions. It wasn't really serious, but it still doesn't look great.
Yeah,
it's
but
a
you
bit
don't rub
awkward.
it in someone's face, though.
Yeah, it's just a bit awkward, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. You can't get past that.
So the two women briefly meet. Cari decides it's a good idea that she probably should just leave, makes her way out. And Liz steps in, she gets her stuff, and she quickly leaves. And that's that. It's all fine, to be fair. But Dave thinks to call Cari back to say, hey, Liz is gone. Does she want to come back over? And she's like, well, I'm halfway home. And she lived in Macedonia, which is a tiny town across the border in Ohio. So I guess it's just a bit of a journey to come all the way back.
Okay, so not to Europe then.
Not to Europe, no.
Okay.
And Dave's like, well, I'll come to you then. And she's like, fine, yeah, come over. And yeah, he goes over.
And Liz rings the buzzer.
No. This time he makes it over and they have latte. Maybe more than that.
Cappuccino.
Plenty of Fish was proving to be a winner for Dave. He's found a few.
He's met two women.
Yeah.
Got himself a latte.
But it's not all about latte. They spend lots of time talking, and it turns out Cari works close to Dave. And so it meant that they could just easily see each other during the week, just go for a drink and catch up and chat. Mm-hmm. So one day she stays over, they get up, they both get ready to leave for work, and he gives her a goodbye kiss at the door. And the day continues to be like any normal day, but then he gets a text message from Cari a few hours later asking, Dave, do you want to move in with me?
What?
Yeah, and this is only after a few weeks. Dave's like, no, this wasn't where things were supposed to go.
Yeah, this is just latte and not serious anything.
Yeah, things weren't supposed to get this involved, so he politely declines, and Cari seems to take it to heart. And perhaps...
she seems so cool up until this point.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe Dave didn't realise she was into him more than he was into her, perhaps.
Right.
She responds, fine, I hate you. I'm dating someone else. I don't want to see you anymore. Go away.
What? I mean, she's clearly butthurt because she wanted to move in like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, and she instantly gives him the cold shoulder. And Dave's like trying to placate things and just gets this barrage of text messages back that says that she would make his life hell and destroy him.
Or because he wouldn't move in with her.
So things have turned sour pretty quickly.
Yeah, major red flag.
Dave is shocked. We all are. And he thought,
Who's we?
Well, us two. We're shocked at this
point. We shocked. Yes.
And he thought like he knew her well enough to know that she wouldn't do this. Perhaps it was still early on and he just had to put it behind him. It was early days and just move on.
Yeah, and just go back to Liz.
Go back to Liz.
Yeah.
He gets on with his life for a few days when Cari starts sending him more texts again and increasingly becomes more aggressive. And Dave is like, whoa, what has happened? Why are you harassing me?
Yeah, so she's the perp.
Well, Dave tries to ignore these messages as best as possible and just get on with life. But within a few days, he's at work when the local sheriff turns up at the garage and asks to speak to him about Cari. And at first, he's very stern with Dave, revealing that Cari's supposedly missing and suspects Dave, being her boyfriend, has something to do with it.
But they're not.
Well, Dave quickly defends himself and is like, no, hang on a second. Cari is fine. I'm getting all these messages. She's harassing me. And he shows the sheriff all these nasty messages that he's been receiving for the past few weeks. And the sheriff quickly sees, oh, this is just some messy breakup.
Yeah, domestic.
It's, whatever. This will probably just blow over, and leaves it at that. And as for Cari, well, people had heard from her, including her mum. She'd been sending her Happy Mother's Day messages. And she just needed a bit of time because perhaps she wasn't handling this breakup that well. Just when you think things can't get any more bizarre, Liz, the other woman David was dating, shows up one day out of the blue. Now, she hasn't seen David or spoke to him for a while because things just naturally cooled between them. When Dave sees her, she's visibly shaken.
Oh, no.
And she says to him, someone's keyed my car. And worse yet, reveals that Cari has managed to track her down and she's started to receive abuse from Cari over text and email.
Really? How did she get a number and her email address? Damn.
Yeah, she is.
So she obviously also knows where she lives then if she's keyed her car. Obviously, depending where it's been keyed.
Well, yeah, we know Cari was quite interested in computers, so perhaps she knows how to do this sort of thing.
Yes, of course.
So what started out as something pretty innocent and mutual between David and Cari is quickly turning sour. The story just gets even more bizarre. But before I get into that, though, I think now's a good time to take a quick break. And when we get back, I will tell you just how things heat up between Cari, Liz, and David.
Let's do it. So Dave has just rejected Cari after she asked him to move in. And since then, she's just been hounding him non-stop with threats and harassment and all sorts, like loads of text messages, loads of emails. And now we've got Liz back on the scene, and she's also now being harassed by Cari as well. So this crazy woman is like flinging red flags everywhere, man.
Yeah, and she's keyed Liz's car.
Yeah, so like how much crazier does it get?
Well, I will tell you. Cari would initially send these messages to Liz and Dave from her phone, of course. Mm-hmm. Anyone that gets any harassment, even if it's like a spam number, whatever, you can block those numbers, and that's what Dave does.
Okay.
But that didn't stop Cari, because she would find or get hold of other numbers and would just start sending even more abusive messages from them. And so he was struggling to keep on top of all these numbers and abuse messages from Cari, because there's probably like 5-10 different phones that she would end up texting from. And then there's emails as well. Even creepier, Dave would get text whilst he was at work, and the messages from Cari would describe the customers he was speaking to.
Oh.
So she was close by and spying on him.
But she didn't work that far away anyway, right?
Oh, yeah, well, that would make sense, yeah.
How far away does she work? Oh, yeah, across the street, the dollar store.
No, she worked close to his address, not close to his work.
Oh, I see. I'm so sorry.
But it's still probably pretty close.
Sure, yeah. So she's spying.
Yeah. And she would even do it when he was taking his kids out to dinner, which was really concerning for Dave, as this was a time with his kids, something he most definitely didn't want to get them involved with. So Dave's life is now a blend of paranoia and disbelief. One moment he's a regular guy fixing cars, and the next he's knee-deep in a situation that's got him questioning what's real. The stress of it really starts to take its toll, and despite reporting it to the police can't seem to find where Cari is, and she hasn't done anything, I guess, seriously enough wrong at this point, apart from just sending some abusive or nasty messages. Cari then reveals to Dave via a message that she's now living only a couple of buildings away from him.
Why would you tell him that, though?
Well, I guess just to freak him out, saying, hey, you can't get rid of me. So this just means he's always looking over his shoulder, trying to work out where she could be spying on him from, knowing that she's a few blocks away.
A lot of the time when you have these people that are sending these harassing text messages, their emotions are all over the place. 1 minute they're like, I really want to get back together. Could we have a future together? And then the next thing they're blowing up again. And then they're like, I hate you. You're evil. I'm going to get you. I'm stalking you. And then they feel bad. And then they try to like make amends again. Do we know what kind of like messages are being sent here? And does she want to be with him?
Well, I think the majority seem to be just abusive and like saying, I know where you are and stuff like that. I think at this point, she isn't trying to get back with him.
Really? It's so bizarre.
From what I know anyway, from the research that I've done. And,
yeah,
you know, this is the Compendium.
You would think that if this behavior was going on, you obviously care enough because you like the guy, right? And you're just upset because it's not being reciprocated.
Yeah, but do you really think that she has any chance in getting him back when she's shown true colours?
No, but the point of it is that she's going to try, and there doesn't seem to be a sense that she is trying as well with amongst the harassment. Because, like I said, your emotions would be all over the place. 1 minute you're trying to kind of like butter him up again, and then you just blow up again because it's not going your way. Do you understand what I mean? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I think the next message that he receives from her might indicate where her head's at.
Okay.
So he gets a photo this time. And the photo is from within Liz's house. So Cari has broken into Liz's
Shit.
house. And yeah, Dave knows it straight away. And that's made him really concerned because
Does he
she's
tell
now broken
Liz?
in. Well, he files a report to the police, but nothing can be done quick enough to bring Cari down. And Dave feels really awful for Liz. She's getting caught up in all of this mess just for dating Dave. And she's a mother, remember, so her child has to deal with these jealous, almost violent acts. And that's no doubt taken a toll on the whole family too.
Sure.
But Dave wanted to protect Liz as much as possible, and he couldn't help having feelings for her again. They bonded over this because they were both under this stress. He tried to support her through this, and they become closer, and they rekindle things for a little while. Cari, being the super stalker that she is, of course finds out what's going on between them, and clearly you can't keep anything from this woman. Cari now breaks into Dave's apartment, and over the top of the bed, in lipstick, writes, "Go away, whore."
A little message for Liz.
Exactly. And then some clothes that belonged to Liz that were still, I don't know, she left him in his apartment. They were slashed with a knife.
Okay. Is it time for wild assertions?
Depends.
Okay. Is Liz Cari?
That's an interesting observation.
Because how did she get into Liz's apartment?
Was she broken?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Okay.
And then also getting into Dave's apartment.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that Liz could easily do.
Well,
so it makes sense that they might be the same person, or they know each other, or they're working in cahoots with each other.
Well, if you break into one apartment, you can break into another one probably.
And why did Liz so happen to show up on their date? What I reckon, tell me how accurate I am,
Okay.
is that Liz has been pursuing Dave, and she's the actual psycho. And she's the one who's sending all these text messages pretending to be Cari. Now, Cari does exist, but she's not the one sending all the messages and stuff. And how about that she actually sent Cari on Plenty of Fish to test him?
Oh,
Hence why she showed up on the night of their date.
Well, all very good theories. I'm going to throw another spanner in the works, which
Okay.
might change that theory. So Liz's house is set on fire.
Well, I mean, she's crazy, so she should set her own house on fire.
Maybe. I mean, Liz is fine, and her child, I think it's her daughter, they weren't harmed. But Liz's pets, her 2 dogs, her cat, and her pet snake all die in the fire.
Yeah, crazy.
So you'd have to be pretty twisted to be able to do that.
I'm still standing by it.
Okay.
Oh, God. Carry on.
So this is getting pretty serious now.
Mm-hmm.
Dave gets an email from Cari admitting it was her who set the house on fire. She said, "I'm not lying. I set that nasty whore's house on fire. I hope the whore and her kids die in it."
Wow.
The police are unable to bring Cari to justice, considering they now have evidence that she's committed arson. Some time passes, and Dave tries to move on as best he can. He gets a new house, and things come to a natural end with Liz. He gets a new number and just tries to sever ties with Cari as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while, it works. He goes back to dating sites, and he casually chats with different women. Things are going well, and he sets up a few dates. On one particular date, Dave arrives, and he grabs a drink, waiting for his date to arrive. An hour goes past, and he realizes he's probably been stood up.
Oh, do you think like they showed up, they saw him and they left?
Why do people keep saying that? And then before he gets a chance to leave, he gets a message from his date. And based on the tone and what's said, it's clearly obvious to Dave that this woman he's speaking to is, in fact, Cari. Somehow she has got hold of his new number and got her way back into his life.
Wow.
She is relentless.
Yeah, she's psycho, man.
And poor Dave, he's fallen for the trap again.
So how's he going to escape this? That's the thing. What can you do?
What can
He's
you
going
do?
to need to get someone to arrest her.
Well,
That's the only way.
He needs to get some hard evidence and, I don't know, get the police to do their job, because currently they're not doing it.
But the thing is, there seems like there's a lot of evidence already. Like all the harassing text messages, the fact that there's evidence that she broke into his house, there was lipstick on the window, also broke into his ex-girlfriend's house as well, or Liz's house. That must be enough.
You should pick up with the sheriff.
Do you know what this is? This is baby reindeer all over again, because that's what happened with him.
Yeah.
They just didn't believe him. And they were like, hang on, wait, someone's stalking you. What, a woman? And then he was like, yes, they made out as if he should be so lucky.
Yeah. And I think it's probably a similar sort of sentiment at that point that the police perhaps just didn't take it seriously enough.
Yeah, because men don't get stalked. Men don't get attacked, or women can't be abusers or perpetrators.
Yeah. And so things with Liz as well, that's cooled down now because Cari's probably scared her off, because why would you stick around in this situation? Cari then turns her attention to Amy. So that's Dave's ex and mother of his kids.
Oh, God.
She starts sending abuse to her, telling her to stay away from Dave and even threatening to harm their children.
We have kids together. Yeah, I'm not going to stay away from him.
Yeah, there's no way I can keep out of his life.
Yeah, exactly. Psycho.
And also the son that they have he gets pretty scared and wants to protect his mum. And so he sleeps with a baseball bat, which I think is quite sad. A young boy sleeping with a baseball bat.
Hey, man, I grew up in South Africa. I slept with bloody a Stanley knife under my pillow.
No, you didn't. Well, actually, you might have done, but you probably stole it.
What? What does that even mean?
The plains of South Africa.
We're not we're not a tribe of thieves.
I know, I'm joking. Anyway, so this poor kid, he sounds like he's pretty traumatized from this whole ordeal. Cari had said to her mum that she had moved away for a job, if you remember, and that she needed some space. And when the police look into the allegations about her, they obviously draw together that she's a jealous ex, and that she had in the past had medication for bipolar, and perhaps that she'd stopped taking her medication, and therefore her erratic and aggressive behaviour was down to her mental health, and that's why she was acting out in this way.
I see.
There is some rationale now that the police are doing a better job. But her mum, she just wants her home safe to get the treatment that she needs. But what she couldn't explain is her apartment was left in a pretty peculiar way. A lot of her stuff was left as it was, like she'd just popped out for the day, and not that she'd moved into a whole new place. So something just didn't add up, and the police seemed pretty useless up until this point in helping Dave and Liz and Cari's mother. That was until a couple of detectives, Jim and Ryan from County Sheriff's Office, picked up Cari's case. And from speaking to Cari's mum and doing lots of more digging, they begin to unravel the case when they find out there's much, much more to it than anyone anticipated. And so they needed to bring in a guy that could dive into all the digital breadcrumbs that could lead to Cari. And so this guy, he's a digital forensic specialist called Anthony Carver. He works in the IT department and was also a volunteer for the sheriff's office as a deputy. And he's a bit of a character. He lives off meal replacement products and hummus. And he openly talks about being on the spectrum, which he says aids his work because his regimented routines allows him to look for patterns in data and kind of sees things that stick out from the norm.
Okay, sounds like he takes extreme pride in being like, oh, I'm not like other guys. I eat hummus and meal replacements. It's chickpeas in meal replacements anyway.
This was before Huel, so I don't know what kind of meal replacements there were back then.
Oh, no, I used to drink meal replacements when I was a kid, so they've been around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So when Carver, this guy, forensic guy, started working on the case, he had to go through hundreds and thousands of emails and texts over a 2-year period. And this task was to figure out where the messages were coming from, and that would all help them locate Cari. So an obvious place to start was looking at a person's IP address. But what's quickly apparent is that the IP addresses vary a lot, which suggests that maybe it was Cari sending these messages from a VPN to hide her real location.
You mean via a VPN?
Yeah, via a VPN, sorry. And that would make sense because she's trying to cover her track. She doesn't want to get caught for the harassment,
and she's a gamer girl, so she knows how it's done.
Yeah, and
she's not an idiot.
Exactly. She doesn't want to get caught. So Carver creates a computer program which in some ways is a bit like AI. He would ask it questions about the data to try and find patterns or information that stood out, as there were thousands and thousands of IP addresses to sift through. So firstly, he needs to find out how many were unique, and there's about 13,000.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot. He then looks at what the top 10 common IP addresses were, and the majority he can detect are from VPN service providers, which means that that data is pretty useless. He can't really detect where it's from. But the top address that is used most can be located to an actual place. It's connected to a house in Iowa, and it was connected to a guy called Todd Butterbur.
Butterbur.
Butterbur. Butterball.
You sound like Moira from Schitt's Creek.
That's what I thought.
Say it again.
Unintentional. Todd Butterball.
Good. So, spell the name?
Butter.
Yeah.
Baugh. Butterbow?
Butterball. Okay, I see what you're saying.
I think how I pronounced it was just fine.
It was fine. I was just like, what kind of word is that? I thought you were saying butterball.
Butterball. I'm just going to call him Todd. So this IP address, it's connected to a guy called Todd. Mm-hmm. And he works at Potawatomi. County Sheriff's office. So basically where they are.
Oh, so he works at the sheriff's office?
He works at the sheriff's office.
Interesting.
Plot twist.
And that's why the sheriff's not doing anything.
Well, not only does he work at that office, Anthony Carver, the IT guy, he's his boss.
Shit.
So what the hell is going on? Because his employee is now a suspect in this case.
Yeah. Well, he must have done. Did the boss say, yeah, I need you to take on this case and investigate it, thinking, oh, he's so incompetent, he's not going to be able to crack the case, and he's cracked it?
Well.
Or he's incriminating him.
No, Carver is the boss. It's his under him. That's Todd.
Oh, hang on. So Carver's the boss.
Yeah.
He's the one.
He's the forensic guy.
Okay, and he has a subordinate.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm with you.
Yeah,
okay.
His subordinate, Todd, it's him.
So he's probably sitting at his desk, shaking in his boots, going, oh my God, they're working on this case. They're gonna catch me. Actually, to be fair, we don't even know what Todd's done yet.
We don't.
No.
But how is he involved? So it's totally unexpected, of course. So they have to give Todd a search warrant to search his place. Mm-hmm. And they're quite concerned as Todd studied at MIT, which is Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
So he's smart as well.
Exactly. He's very, very smart. You have to basically pay, I think, $80,000 a year or get a scholarship in order to get into this place.
Yeah. I know MIT.
MIT.
Not stupid. I know it.
Well, I'm just letting our other listeners know.
Okay.
So the point is, they had to tread very carefully because this guy was very smart.
Why? So you have to tread carefully because he's smart?
Well, they're going to go about their work to try and go undetected because maybe he's spying on what they're doing. So they have to be very careful.
Oh, okay.
So how is Todd connected to this case? Well, it turns out he has an on and off again relationship with a woman who sometimes would live at his place. Her name is Liz Golyar.
Shut up.
Every message that had been sent to Dave, to Carrie's mum, to Dave's ex, Amy, were all from Liz, not Cari. She was the one behind it all.
What did I tell you?
When did I tell you?
When did I tell you? And what did I say?
So, now feels like a good mini cliffhanger to take a break. And when we'll come back, I'll tell you just exactly what Liz has been doing all along.
Ooh, gasp. So, we're back, and what we've just found out is that I was kind of right.
You were kind of right.
Kind of right. So, Liz has been sending messages pretending to be Cari to Dave all of these months. Mm-hmm. Hang on. That means that Liz potentially set fire to her own house and killed her own pets.
Yep.
What a bitch.
Yeah. That's right, yeah.
What does she have against her? She had a dog, she had a cat.
She had a snake.
She also threatened to kill her own kids. I hope your kids die.
Yeah, well, she's she, air quotes, broke into her place and, trashed it.
Those are easy things to do.
Yeah, that's true. She did that to Dave's place. She wrote graffiti
easy thing
on the
to
wall.
do as well.
She keyed her own car and said it was Cari.
Yeah.
Well, this is what we know at this stage, at least.
Interesting. Okay. How does it evolve from here?
Well, everything is pointing towards that it was Liz. And if this is the case, this probably meant that Cari, well, seeing as no one has heard or seen her properly in several years now, she's probably dead. And she'd been getting the blame for all these actions this entire time.
Hang on, pause there. Several years.
Several years.
But he did go on a date with a Cari.
But the harassment and all the messages had been going on and off for a couple of years now.
Okay.
So far, police can only prove that Liz was impersonating Cari. So they look at Liz's phone around the time that Cari went missing and managed to get some photos and downloads and all sorts that was missed by the original investigations. One of the photos on Liz's phone was a photo of Cari's car taken on Christmas Eve of 2012. The car itself was not recovered until January the 8th. So what happened during this holiday period? The assumption is this is when Cari went missing.
Wow.
Looking through the report of the car at the time it was found, a fingerprint was identified, but no one could link it to anyone until now. That fingerprint, you guessed it, belonged to Liz.
I didn't guess that.
Oh, well.
I was going to say Dave. So yeah, Liz. Crazy.
Yeah, they can at least now say that she was in the car around that time.
Okay.
But still, there is no hard evidence to pin this on Liz yet. So the police put a tracker on Liz's car and they find that she is spying on Dave's ex, Amy's house with her kids on a daily basis.
Wow.
Just circling her house every day.
But doesn't she not have a job?
Liz? You'd think so, right? Because how is she funding her stalking habit?
I don't know. And she's definitely not living with Todd anymore, right?
No, not at this point, as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
But she, I guess, starts to suspect that things perhaps aren't going the way that she thought they would or the way that she had planned.
Mm-hmm.
So in a move that's half genius, half bonkers, decides the best way to deflect guilt is to literally take a bullet. Yep.
Oh no, she shot herself.
She shoots herself.
Where did she shoot herself?
Well, not to frame Cari this time.
Well, Cari's dead, apparently.
Well, yeah, but obviously no one knows that at this point. For sure, she's now trying to pin this on Amy.
What?
And if that's not commitment to a lie, I don't know what is.
So how was Amy supposed to have shot her?
Well, the police get a call from Liz saying that she had been shot in the thigh at a park by another woman.
Oh, a thigh. That's so obvious. That's so obvious.
Anyone
like,
can shoot you.
Shoot yourself in the gallbladder or something like that, yeah. Not the thigh. People, that's the obvious place you're going to shoot yourself.
Well, yeah, but Liz tries to pin this on Amy, saying she was jealous of Dave getting too close to Liz, and even suggests that Amy, she's the one that probably murdered Cari.
Wow.
So based on Liz's statement at the scene, police go to Amy's house, and Amy says that when she answered her door to find the police standing at her door with guns pointed at her. So they take this allegation very seriously from Liz. And she'd been at home with her 2-year-old son, and officers noticed her car was cold to the touch and indicating she hadn't been anywhere recently. And so they begin to realize that something is up with Liz's story. So the police try to use this to their advantage and decide to go along with Liz's wild theory in a hope that she might mess up and reveal a vital clue by mistake.
Okay.
So the police convince Liz they are taking her allegations seriously about Amy. So Liz is like, yeah, they bought my plan, and she forwards over some messages that she supposedly received from Amy saying, I shot you in the park because you wouldn't keep away from Dave.
It's very, very blatant, isn't it?
That's what all attempted murderers do. They make sure they put that in writing.
Yeah. Idiot!
So the police are like, okay, yeah, sure. Thanks so much, Liz. This is great. This will really help us nail Amy. Of course, whilst this is happening, Dave and Amy are pretty scared for themselves and their family. And if Liz is willing to shoot herself and probably kill Cari, then what chance do they have?
It's true, actually. Shit.
And what's riskier yet, the police wanted to get Dave and Amy to draw Liz out further. And so they lead Liz to believe through a recorded conversation with Dave that Dave's moved back in with Amy to protect his family.
Oh, that's going to drive Liz mental.
Yep, she blows up. She complains to the police, how is Amy not arrested yet? She gets to kill another person, attempts to kill me, and then she gets to move back in with her ex. She is fuming.
Wow.
And this means that the cracks in her plan and her behaviour are really beginning to show now, just like the police had planned. So they then go on to say to her, if Amy did reveal to you some more specifics about what happened to you or Cari, then we could totally use that against her. This gives Liz some food for thought. And it doesn't take long for good old Liz to be ever so helpful in getting some details out of Amy on how she killed Cari.
Shit. So I see what they're doing here. They're going to try and see if they can get some information from Liz that only Liz would know that would then maybe turn up a body or turn up a weapon or like some kind of whereabouts of where Cari is, right?
Yeah, exactly that. I guess they're thinking that maybe she's going to use some truth within these lies and behind what actually happened. So she reveals a confession in an email, which, I can't believe Liz thinks that the police are going to buy a confession from Amy.
But they're pandering to her right now, right? And it's coming across as if they're on her side. So
yeah,
I can see how you might believe that.
Yeah, she thinks that her plan's now working again. And she reveals in this email, supposedly from Amy, that there was a stabbing within Cari's car. And so when the police learn of this, they go back to the car and they pull it apart. And on the surface of things, there's no traces of any blood or anyone being stabbed in the car. But they pull back the seat covers in the front seats. They find a blood stain.
Okay.
And that's soaked into the cushion of the car. So that was missed when it was first inspected because people didn't really think to look.
Because they're idiots.
Yeah, I didn't think the police at the time were perhaps that smart. So now they know that is where probably Cari had died. They have evidence of Liz taking photos on her phone of her car.
One drop of blood?
No, a lot of blood.
Oh, it was a lot of blood.
Soaked.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, damn.
Yeah, not just a pinprick.
One pinprick and she's dead.
Yeah, so there's a lot of blood that's been soaked into their car. And because they have the evidence of Liz taking a photo on her phone and her fingerprint was found within the car, they now have enough to interrogate Liz. She, of course, denies everything. But for the prosecutors, it's hard to prove a murder if you don't have a body. So the investigators go back to everyone involved in the case to try and turn over everything that perhaps would have been overlooked. Carver, the IT forensic guy, just happened to ask Dave once more, do you have any digital devices still that you had around the time of Cari's death, back around, the end of 2012?
Like what kind of digital devices? An iPod?
Camera, a laptop, anything that they can just look into. With the assumption that maybe if you were with Liz at the time or whatever, maybe there's just something we can look into or something that we can track down from this.
Now, what kind of stuff would they be looking for exactly?
Well, just anything that they can link back to either Cari or Liz, essentially, in terms of messages, texts, maybe an image was sent that they've overlooked.
Oh, I'm with you.
Dave does some digging and he finds an old tablet device and hands that over. From his recollection, there is nothing of note on that device, but it does have a memory card slot which has a micro SD card inserted into it, which I believe could be linked back to Liz. For Carver, it's worth a shot at looking at what's on that card. It's been wiped clean, of course, but if you are an IT forensic person, you can look for deleted information. And so he manages to find around 10 to 12,000 thumbnail size photographs. I assume not the full image because they've been deleted, but there's like a memory of what was there. And so they have to painstakingly look through all of these thumbnails and images, trying to magnify what was on those original photos.
Yep.
They managed to narrow down a bunch of images that were taken around the time Cari goes missing. And so this limits it to about 1,000 images to go through. One image that comes up looks to be an image of a foot. The investigators notice that there's this marbling effect on the foot, which is what happens post-mortem, and so your veins become more visible.
Ooh.
And so it's likely that they have a picture of a dead foot or body, for sure.
Shit.
On this foot was a tattoo, and so they call up Cari's mother to ask, did she have any tattoos anywhere? And she, of course, reveals, yes, she did. She had a Chinese symbol for mother on her foot.
Oh.
And that was the final puzzle piece in this case.
Shit, so she killed her.
Yeah. The fact Liz took a trophy picture of Cari is just horrendous.
Sick. Yeah.
Yeah, sick. She is one hell of a vile woman, and even though Cari's body or remains could never be found, Liz pleads not guilty, and thankfully, though, she is sentenced to life in prison in Nebraska.
So she never revealed what she did with the body?
No, she denied it constantly.
That's awful. Her poor mother.
And her son as well.
Oh, of course, and her sons, yeah.
Anthony Carver estimated that Liz must have spent about 40 to 50 hours a week impersonating Cari over the course of 3 years.
That's mental.
I believe the total number of texts and emails pretending to be Cari was something like 15,000 emails and 50,000 text messages. So yeah, that was her full-time job.
Damn. I don't even think my Reddit account has got that many posts or comments.
Yeah, well...
And that's saying something.
Yeah, so she was invested in this.
Yeah.
The Netflix documentary, Lover, Stalker, Killer, goes into this story in even greater detail, so that's worth a watch if you want to learn more about the case. After the release of this documentary, what seemed to get brought to light once again is the fact that this isn't the first time Liz might have been involved in a murder case.
No.
An ex-boyfriend of Liz was interviewed by a US newspaper, and his name is Raymond Stahan. He thinks Liz was behind the death of their 5-month-old son, Cody, which occurred more than a decade earlier to Cari's death. He thinks she is fully capable of hurting her son, Cody, or at least getting someone else to do it and cover up the tracks. The post-mortem results on their child suggested that he had suffered brain hemorrhage caused by vigorous shaking.
What a monster. Whatever happened to shaky baby syndrome? Do you remember that was such a big thing, like in the late 1990s and the early noughties? You don't hear much about it anymore. Maybe just like vile parents to stop shaking the babies.
Hope so. Let's be glad that we don't hear about that.
But it is true, right? We used to hear about it all the time.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, weird. That and acid rain. Whatever happened to acid rain?
Yeah, that still hasn't come to fruition, right?
What do you mean?
We don't get acid rain anymore.
Or if we just stopped talking about it and we just never got acid rain.
I don't know. Never mind. Yeah.
I guess global warming's trumped it now, right?
Yeah, that's the new thing. So just to finish this sort of story, Liz also had another boyfriend called Glenn at the same time as going out with Raymond, the one she had a child with. She even moved in with Glenn, this other guy, making out it was just a friend that she was living with, while she was pregnant with Raymond's child, which is really bizarre. And she would often visit friends and would want to get male attention, and she was very jealous if Raymond got any attention. Liz was around 21 at the time because her and her boyfriend Glenn became prime suspects in Cody's death. Her boyfriend suffers brain damage. He had to have hours of tough interrogations where he eventually conceded he may have shaped the baby boy to death.
Oh, yeah, but he's got like learning difficulties.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I don't know, maybe he did, but straight away, the way that you've said that makes me think like the police can sometimes coerce people into confessions through exhaustion and shit.
That's exactly what the family of Glenn thought. They thought that they badgered Glenn into making a confession under these stressful circumstances.
If there's anything that doing true crime has taught us, is that the police are ruthless when it comes to trying to get a confession out of people.
Yeah, that's it. What's more is Liz made a call to her boyfriend Glenn at the time in distress, claiming she had dropped the baby, get home. But this was shot down in court.
Wow.
So it seems like she might have been the culprit in this, and she pinned it on her boyfriend who had brain damage. And I think people believe it was her because when they were at the hospital, when the baby was taken there, Liz was all over him, her boyfriend Glenn. So you wouldn't do that if he had killed your child, would you?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you'd be like, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah. And so her boyfriend went down for 8.5 years for second-degree murder. Liz was never charged for that. People believe that she manipulated Glenn. But for Cari's family, they are left without a daughter and a mother. Cari's mother is very thankful to the police team who brought Liz to justice, giving her some closure after all the years of just not knowing where Cari was. Cari also leaves behind her teenage son, Maxwell, who was taken in by his grandmother. Max attended university, gaining a degree in software engineering and data science, following in the footsteps of his mother.
That's nice.
As well as getting married, and he started a family himself. Cari's mother wants people to remember her as this fun, loving, talented, smart woman that she was. She was a brilliant mother and hard worker. And that is the story of the love triangle between Dave Kroupa, Liz Golyar, and Cari Farver.
God, imagine going through that much effort just to, I don't know, just for vitriol and hate and harassment. And was she ever diagnosed with anything?
Not that I'm aware of. I think she is just a ruthless, cold-hearted bitch.
God, that's crazy, isn't it?
Although there are studies where this one guy, I think he committed murder. He went on like a spree of some sort. But he wrote a note before then, and he asked people to dissect his brain or look into it because he felt something was up with him. And it turned out he had a tumor or something in his brain that potentially was on an area that might,
cause violent tendencies.
Yeah, so maybe those things exist. You've got to explain why there's so many murderers in the world. There's got to be some.
They all got tumors.
Yeah, there's got to be some connection there, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm not a clinical psychologist or a neurosurgeon.
No.
So I don't know, but
just
crazy, wild story. Yeah. If that. So what was the documentary called again?
Lover, Stalker, Killer.
Okay. Is that relatively quite new, is it?
I think it's within the last sort of 6 months.
Wow, okay.
That. But yeah, that's it. Shall we run the outro?
I say let's run the outro.
And so we come to the end of another episode of the Compendium, an assembly of fascinating and intriguing things. If you enjoyed today's episode, then be sure to hit that follow button right in the app you are listening to us right now. It really helps us more than we can articulate. You can also schedule new episodes to download automatically. And if you haven't done so already, then leave us a little review. Your feedback only helps us to get better. Don't forget that we release new episodes every Tuesday. And until then, remember, in the digital age, our stories are written not with ink, but with the clicks of a keyboard. And sometimes those stories refuse to be deleted, lingering like ghosts in the machine, ready to unravel the past.
Ooh, poignant.
I like to try and leave us with a poignant note.
Well, I mean, I don't know why you're only starting to do that now.
I think all of them have been poignant.
We'll see.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll see you next week.
See you later.